has reminded me.
We also have a group of a new breed of writers, a crop of writers, and we're calling them the new Mbogi. Okay, the Mbogi has many people. Like today's is Dr. Stella Bosire, who writes on health. Cholera exposes yawning gaps in our health system. It's on page 16 of the Daily Nation, and you'll also find it on dailynation.africa. We cannot purport to address public health when we have glaring inequalities in the social determinants of health. Yesterday was about governance, and the topic was we carried the wounded, now we carry memories. And let me just read a bit of it before we introduce who wrote it. I remember seeing David Shege's mom for the first time at his funeral in Mangu, Kiambu County. I hugged her tightly, lost for words. Nothing I could say would ever match the weight of her grief. The pain of having seen her son's skull plastered on the tarmac, shot by a sniper straight to the head. That memory will never leave me. It should not. Because that's the cost that we paid for imagining a better Kenya. A Kenya where being young, brave, and unarmed didn't make you a target. I remember Eric, wounded and recovering at the Nairobi West Hospital, asking me with a tired smile, when are we going back to the streets? Wounded, smiling, relentless. I remember Eustace, 12-year-old boy, asking for time, just time, to think about what it meant to lose his right leg, to imagine a life without football, to say goodbye to a future he had always assumed would include running. And I remember Abdul Kadir at Kenyatta National Hospital, so full of life, holding my hand, telling me he would walk again, even with a bullet in his spine. He died a few days later. These are people I knew, people I loved, people whose names I whisper to myself when I see how quickly this country wants to move on, as if last year's protests were a blip and an inconvenience, not a national awakening. That was yesterday's Mbogi, Hanifa Adan. The protests did not fail, she says. They revealed the brutal cost of speaking truth in this country. They revealed the indifference of leadership that treats dissent as an attack. Hanifa is here. Very well written piece. Very well told story.
Sorry, I'm starting.
Yeah.
You know? It does that. I mean, I read it and it's the same thing that I felt. I was like, my goodness. Because you brought us back into that moment and you told the story of people from a first-person perspective.
Hanifa, how are you? Let me just ask that, because you've done a lot of really heavy lifting, emotional heavy lifting since June, probably even before that. How are you? I know it's...
Good question. Sorry,
It's okay.
Every time someone asks that question, it's overwhelming and really draining, I would say. And it just feels unfair. Like, we lost a lot. Like, they really took everything.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
okay.
it's okay.
It's so valid.
It is.
It's so valid.
It is. And
Like-
because you're talking about what you went through, what you wrote yesterday, which is just one of the many articles that you'll be writing, is reflecting that. But you said that those protests did not fail. They revealed the brutal cost of speaking truth. We carried the wounded, now we carry memories.
Yeah, I wrote that because there was this conversation that was dominating social media, how the dangerous allures of presidential aura. So we've been having these conversations and people are saying we need strong leadership. We need, and I think they're mistaking confidence or noise for leadership. So that conversation has been going on for some time and has dominated social media. So I think people are forgetting the cost of the strong leadership we are having. So they want that too in the future. So we want a bully now again. I wanted to remind people of what a strong leadership does. That is what prompted me to write that.
Wow. As we continue to just navigate your journey, Hanifa, I just want to jump to the writing. Is it for you a form of healing as well, kind of taking on writing these articles every week? Is it not just to honor the memory? For you as well, does it do something for you to just think about those moments and think about how important they are? Is there a healing element to the writing?
Yeah. There's some sort of healing. That's why when he read it again, I started getting emotional because I remember vividly. I remember every single day of my life. The state-sanctioned brutality and the trails of brutality I saw every day in mortuaries, in hospitals, and in burials. You see, like facing the parents, even in mortuaries when they don't want to get into the postmortem room to watch it. It's a form of healing, yes. And also, I'm glad that I can have a bigger platform now to remind people and to write about these stories. I believe in telling our narratives, in writing our own stories, each and everyone from anywhere, so that people don't write it for us, so that people do not forget. I really don't want people to forget what it is we lost and the cost, the price we had to pay.
Right. What's your anchor? What you do requires an incredible amount of bravery. You put yourself out there, you risk the state coming at you, but you also get so much flack from people who ideally should be behind you. So what's your anchor? What makes it worth doing every day?
I get that question a lot because there's unnecessary bullying I face, which results from many things, I believe. And also the state is also after me. So you'd see people being paid for this and that. And the emotional trauma and doing this at the expense of my mental well-being. I think, trust me, I've considered giving up sometimes, but it just comes naturally to me. I don't know what it is, but something pops up the next day and you're angry again and you're talking about it and you're so passionate again. So I think we also validate each other. You really have to ignore the noise if you're in this kind of space. And I do things because I believe in what is right, in fairness, in justice, not to look for validation in other people, and not being motivated by other external factor, because you will get tired if that is what you're relying on. So I have conviction, this sense of justice and fairness. I just hate saying something so unfair, and I can actually do something about it. So I have that bit of influence and power. I believe it is my duty, my responsibility, each and every one of us. Mine comes passionately. I can change actually things using tweets. Why would I quit that because of some noise? That is what keeps me going.
Right. And the noise is supposed to wear you down. The aim is to wear you down.
Yes.
But the idea is to...
Yeah, actually, they want to demoralize you. That is why I get attacks. I can be having a really good time and also some peace, and then something else comes up, and then Hanifa is trending again. So I don't check the trending part because I just scroll and hope that I'm not trending. It's draining, let me tell you. I just don't want to ever show that I'm weak in front of them, but they do drain you, I will not lie. They demoralize you, and that's the aim. So they want to demoralize you so that you can give this up. And they've approached me with that kind of nonsense of, why are you doing this for people who are ungrateful? They come with that angle so that you can, find an escape from somewhere. That is their aim. And unfortunately, it has worked for some of the people you've seen who've switched sides. So that is genuinely their aim, to demoralize you. But never. It's never going to happen to me.
What is, when you say seeking justice, if it's for Rex, for Chege, for every life that we've lost since the protests began, everyone who was injured, every person who was arrested unfairly, what would justice look like? What's your idea of justice for them?
My idea of justice is everyone, like every killer cop, to be honestly charged and sentenced, and just that sense of justice, being held to account. That is what actually angers me the most. People were shot dead on the streets. We even have evidence, like forex case. That officer claimed that he wasn't on the street that day. And I went to Twitter and asked people to show all the evidence, because we have the video. That is one thing the government doesn't understand. We have receipts, we have everything. They cannot outdo us when it comes to this. We have all the evidence. So that guy needs to pay. So my idea of justice will be every killer cop. I want to see them behind bars. I want to see them crying too. I genuinely want to see them feel the same pain that they have caused hundreds of families.
The fact that we have the receipts, we know what happened, we saw it, we were there, but it seems that getting justice it's a far cry.
It's elusive, yeah.
It's a far cry. Is there anything that you've seen being done, whether it's on X or in other spaces, that makes you think that it's possible to actually get the justice? Whether it's IPOA investigations, whether it's people banding together, whether it's the LSK pushing. Yeah, who's working towards actually getting this justice?
Actually, no one. Maybe some civil society organization like Amnesty and Vocal African, but I have my opinions on IPOA. And it's not good. I've been with IPOA ever since the protest, and I don't think they're helping in any way, and I'll be bold and loud about that. IPOA has just been, I don't know, just present, but it's not felt. We are not feeling them. They're just there, just trying to run around and seem. I remember an incident where the guy who was shot 7 times, and we went to get him out of the hospital at KU referral. We asked where the bullets were, because that is evidence. They're saying the hospital has the bullets. So we had an LSK lawyer. This is a shout out to LSK. I don't really know what to do without them. He actually volunteered and went there to check with them. He's also still waiting for the hospital. So there's these formalities they have. There's so many things we don't know. There's so many bullets too. We don't know where they are. And IPOA do not have an idea. So no, we are not feeling IPOA on this. They are not doing anything. That is why justice looks so elusive. It is hopeless. As much as I want it to be the other way around, it's completely hopeless, because we know why it's like this, and we know why they're covering it up. And we were going to do our best. The best we can do is not to forget, and we keep holding these people to account. It's hopeless, but we're not giving up.
So IPOA, you feel IPOA is not doing what it should be doing?
Yes.
Right? Are there some cases that they followed through? Out of last year, the cases of just police brutality or police overreaching their mandate, are there some cases that you feel that IPOA has taken up, or are you just saying that they've done nothing? As far as you're concerned, you're basically saying that none of the cases that have been brought before them.
I think even the question should be direct. They should show us what it is. They've done even one case. Yeah, I've followed through. So is there any case that IPOA can come out and say that like this we have followed through with? What IPOA does is just most of the time be in charge of the bullets, or be where postmortem is performed, and that's it. We've never heard of any reports. We've never heard of any. I remember last year during protests, we had videos and that shows faces of police officers shooting at people. We tagged IPOA, we sent videos to IPOA, people, nothing. And I remember clearly a case of a very young boy who was killed just before we reached Kajiado. I remember that place. And we Isinya, yes. So I sent that video to IPOA. The police actually directly shot to him, and nothing. Because what more do you need? I know it takes, but even just one step, that is why the police are doing what they're doing. No consequences whatsoever. This is what is giving them the blatant audacity You saw the video of the police officer who was dancing after killing that boy. Look at the kind of monsters we're dealing with. And nothing happened to that guy too. What kind of a country is this, honestly?
Yeah.
It's so disheartening. I'm so tired of these people.
And when you say nothing, there's not even, Tumepata will let you know, it's silence and it's deflecting. Nothing.
Yes.
Okay.
How many cases do we have, my sister? How many cases do we have? IPOB is, I'm sorry for lack of a better word, a backing dog. Because there's a lot they can do. Who are we even going to rely on if such an institution is so hopeless? You see, because they're still they eat from the same table, so there's no hope with this.
How can we fix it? Because you see, we have created IPOB as an institution of government, and said institutions are the ones that should work. And the job of IPOB is that independence, and it is comprising of people who are not members of the National Police Service to investigate cases of overreach by the police service. And you're saying that from what you have seen, from your own observation, you don't feel like they're living up to the job. So how would you suggest that we fix it?
IPOB, if things are actually working in this country, IPOB would follow up with these cases. You've got the bullets, okay? It can be traced to the officer who shot it. It's as simple as that. We can get into other complex explanation, but the bullet itself tells you who shot this particular guy. If they summoned these officers, questioned them, we can take as much time as we want to gather evidence and everything, because we have proof, we have receipts. If there's a video of this police officer bluntly shooting at someone, you should follow it up. You trace the officer because his face is very clear in the video. I felt hopeless because we have Rex. Nothing is as clear as Rex cases, because that officer, we have videos of him shooting at Rex. We have videos of him in the streets that day after saying he wasn't in the street. Him claiming he wasn't in the street was actually very lame and stupid. And you see, with such evidence, it's still an inquest. He's not even being charged.
Right.
That is what is.
How do we crowdsource justice? I know it's a wild thing, but I was saying yesterday on the show, during Mandamano, we managed to crowdsource a lot of things. We were able to crowdsource medical care, and people banded together. Medics for Kenya came through. We crowdsourced legal representation with the LSK, and they offered free services. Now that, it seems we're not getting anywhere following the regular route, how do we crowdsource justice for every life that was lost and everyone injured, and for all Kenyans as a whole?
Well, we do our part, and we've done our part ever since last year. Just like how I came on Twitter and asked people to send evidence that the officer, the killer cop, was on the street that day. Right. And people sent everything. And unfortunately, that is as far as we go. The civil society is also suing these people. They're also doing their part. And you can tell there's a block somewhere. You see, that there's this block that you want to get justice, but the masters will not let you. There's this block. There is this block
and
between.
barrier,
There's the barriers. I think we all know how this works. We have done our best, everything. And we want to really focus on the case of Rex Masai so that we can try and make an example out of that. Hopefully, if he does not die, and not naturally, of course, the case.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, we've talked about just how digital space or the public sometimes can tear people down who are at the front lines of trying to pursue justice. What will it take for people to be on the same page? Because we keep talking about we want a new Kenya. 2027, we have to do differently. And yet, it's 2025, April. but there seems to be so much division. I know that there's still a collective call for justice and action, but there's also a lot of interference, a lot of disruption, a lot of misinformation, character assassination. On a personal level, I know it worries me because I'm like, then we're not aligned. We just don't seem to be aligned. I wonder whether you feel the same way, and if so, what do you think it will take for people to say this is the Kenya we want and this is how we can do it?
Yes, there's a lot of infighting and infiltration, I believe. And unfortunately, we've been infiltrated a bit and they're causing division. Like I said, they'd find someone and then try to drag them, case study me, so that they plant mistrust in people's mind. Because if they just want to get rid of me, I can see. We obviously know who is doing this and that, because we've been infiltrated and we've been fighting since last year. And it's okay too, because when something comes up again, everyone puts their differences aside and then get, like the Butere girls incident. That was amazing. Everyone was just there doing their part. So immediately the script got online. Few minutes later, it was already on Spotify. And then people already created videos of it, AI videos. So I love it how we are always coming together despite the differences. Even the people I do not like, people who do not like me, we always come together. That is the beauty of it. And that is one of the beautiful reasons why being leaderless is still, it still works. Many people think that we need to go past that. I believe being this aggressively leaderless still works. Of course, they still hold me to such a high standard, which is frustrating. But being leaderless really works for us. I like how everyone just does things on their, everyone just do whatever they can in their own capacity. And that is the beauty of it. We fight and then we reconcile again for a certain agenda, and then we go back to, and then we come back again. Yeah, because the momentum might be slow, but it is not off. The momentum depends every single day. People complain of being activists on Twitter. Things have never been the same. Especially Twitter has never been the same since last year. Everyone is an activist, and I still think we have it. We have it. We still have it.
I know we're going into a break, but I really want to interrogate the what next.
We can come back to that.
What next? I mean, how do we build on this momentum that happened last year, or is the momentum actually still the same? How do you push back against all the infiltration, like you're calling it? Hanifa Adan is our guest this morning. She is one of the Mbogi, the new ones who are writing for the Daily Nation. Her article was on yesterday. You'll find it on Daily.Nation.Africa. We are talking about, that power of activism and pushing for justice. We'll be back shortly. You can post all your questions or comments on YouTube and Facebook and X, and we'll be posing them to Hanifa. Back in a moment.
There. Our conversation with Hanifa Adan continues. She is, of course, part of our new Mbogi on the Daily Nation team, a columnist. Every Saturday, we'll get to hear from her. And we've just interrogated what being a justice defender looks like, how we're seeking justice months and months on after the June protests, how we're exactly fixing the nation in terms of what we do online, what we do in real life. And I wanted to speak to the double standards that I think I see as far as leaders are concerned. And the thing about the Gen Z protest was leaderless, and we'll talk about the pros and cons of that, but you still came out as quite a loud voice. The standards that you're judged by, however, I would say they are sky high, higher than I've seen for leaders anywhere. I think you showed great levels of accountability with the Mchanga. You accounted for every penny, which is more than can be said for every headline we read every day. But the standards that we hold our leaders to are, in hell, and then for Hanifa and co, it's in the sky. What does that do to your mental when you see people still try to poke holes in the things that you've done, even though they don't have the same question, or they don't often ask the same questions of their actual leaders?
Well, again, it is draining when people hold you to such high standard, and it actually didn't start recently. Even I when we were cleaning our pipeline, advocating for better roads and all, people would ask me, why don't you go to pipeline and clean it yourself? So it started a long time ago, but it skyrocketed during the Gen Z movement and up to now. I even jokingly told them that I'm going to vie so that you guys can properly hold me to that standard that you've been holding me with as a volunteer. I have a good friend on X, he's called Blaze. He wrote something when people were attacking me one time. He said that if you guys were holding your own leaders to the standards you hold Hanifa with, we would be like Singapore. We would honestly be. It feels like a compliment sometimes because people see hope in me or they see something else, but it is burdening for me.
Yeah.
This is something I have volunteered for. No one is paying me for this. No one has hired me. And I do this so passionately and at the expense, again, I'm saying, of my well-being, at the expense of my safety, at the expense of my job. They cost me all of that. So it's quite annoying when you come online and then people drag you to hell with the mallicense and slander and a lot of bullying, especially as a woman too. Misogyny, the misogyny always comes out at the end of it all. So it's draining, but like I said, you ignore the noise, and they love and support.
And you still
It's still there.
It's
I
a
feel
lot
like we
too.
have a toxic relationship with integrity.
It's
like
we want it, but we don't want
there you
it.
go.
They're projecting. One even said, why didn't you steal the money? How? Why? So I think we've been so desensitized.
Yes.
People have been people still are amazed at how that happened. For me, it's just normal. I'm even questioning why people would think, would, even if they were in my position, would actually steal money meant for people in the hospital and the dead. You'd actually steal that money. That is what I question them about, those who ask why I didn't steal the money. So it's a series of projection from them, because you're projecting, and
That's what you would do if you were in my position. You would steal.
And that's all
and that shocks me.
Yeah.
Why would you steal money meant for the dead and money meant for... And these were your comrades. You were with them in the streets, but you went home in one piece. They didn't. So it took the life in me to actually do that with the Mchanga, because I didn't want anyone to be left behind. I still fight for everyone who is unlawfully arrested. Like this recent case of Sifuna, the 22-year-old who's been arrested, and he's actually in cell right now. He's being charged with the publication of false information and impersonating Ruto. And I do not agree with what he posted. I, for instance, do not agree with people degrading women on Twitter and feminizing and womanizing incompetence. Yes, we have corrupt female politicians and leaders. We have corrupt male politicians. But you do not feminize corrupt male politicians. And I'm against that. I'm against the degrading of women using AI. That is not how we are fighting this. Because there's, at least that's my favorite quote, there's no true revolution without the liberation of women. Because you need women in this fight, and the least you're going to do is respect us. I do not agree with what he posts, yes, but we are defending him, because him risking a 10-year time in jail or pay a fine of 5 million is quite ridiculous, considering what these leaders, everyone has done to this country. People are dying everywhere, and no one held to account. So why is a 22-year-old held to that standard? He's 22 years, so you can imagine. A 22-year-old is still learning. But we have old guards who've been robbing us of our future. The healthcare is in crisis. People are dying in hospitals, and the governor is seeking healthcare in the US. But someone died in Nakuru because of negligence. You can see the irony in that. And these things really annoy me so much. That is why I don't agree with what he said, but I'm defending to death his right to say it. That the intention is to silence dissent, not to, try to
it's not to enforce the law, to silence dissent. You hold yourself to very high standards, and you say people are also doing the same of you. And when you look at those in leadership, what we are saying is we feel like we're not holding our leaders to the same standard as we are holding our rights defenders. Let's flip the coin a little bit. If you were in public office and people were holding you to this account, do you think it would bother you as much?
No, it wouldn't, because it is their right.
So it would be okay for them to attack you, to say you ate money, if you're actually an elected official and you coordinated an mchanga and you went and did everything that you did following last year's protests, but people still came out to say, huyu alikula pesa, si tunawajua tuliwachagua na kula tu pesa zetu. You want to tell me it wouldn't affect you?
I think that's a bit of a rare case, because an elected leader is using public money, and everyone we go after or attack is because the scandal has been reported. I think we go after them. Well, let's say the nation says today this certain MP has, has been involved in a corruption scandal and has gotten away with millions of money. And then you start, of course, it is your right to hold them to account. Where is that money? Why are you stealing from us? And every one of them has these cases every single day. You see, and that is why holding them to account is what any proper citizen needs to do, our civic duty. So
basically what I'm asking, Hanifa, do you think sometimes people unfairly also criticize those in leadership?
I haven't seen any case, honestly, because for me, I'd speak for myself. Unfairly, maybe as for female politicians when they are sexualized or degraded, that is, I can be against them for their leadership, but not.
You're also seeing male politicians being
male
sexualized as well.
Yeah, sorry, male and female politicians when they are sexualized. That is what I'm against. We need to properly do this in the right way. So as for politicians being unfairly treated sometimes, I would say no, they're doing worse. I'm sorry, but they're doing worse. Okay, people are dying. I do not have any shred of sympathy meant for these people when it comes to holding them to account, especially after the news of their scandals comes out. For me, it's evidence. We're working with receipts, like I said. Receipts. Everything is there. Everything is, you can see it. We are not, falsely accusing them. No one is falsely accusing them. So apart from the sexualization of all of them, the rest, nah, we're working with facts.
You're talking about, I like how you've really focused on the importance of not insulting.
Yes.
Let's take a little bit to Anifa Imana. That was the character in Butere Girls' play Echoes of War. I just want to know from you what you feel that character symbolizes today. First, how it resonated with you, and then how you think what you think it symbolizes in society today. What kind of woman and person it symbolizes?
Anifa was tech savvy. She led a whole movement and found justice and rebellion in the end. The resistance work, I hope it does with us. So I chose to write about Hanifa embodying all of us. She was relentless. She was creative. It's so amazing. We all relate because she relied on tech a lot, and that is what the entire Gen Z movement was about. It was centralized. The center of it all was social media. And I think that is what worked and still works well for us. I took her and wrote about her and how she really embodies us, holding the oppressors to account and using tech to expose all the heinous scandals and corruption and all the oppression going on. And it was so amazing writing that I got the deja vu with that. we resonate with everything she does and how she was able to achieve it. We created ChatGPT for the finance bill. We had all the medical aid, the legal aid, everything, the solidarity, first things first. That is what we saw in the play too, and how Hanifa worked with her friends to save Mustafa. It started with Mustafa being arrested because of his telemedicine AI invention. So the solidarity, everything resonated. How I love the thing about solidarity, because we are all we have. That is what I wanted to talk about too. So we are all we have. No funding, no patronage. And the most important thing was defying the odds, the older generation ways of doing things, and us. So there's a very clear line on that. We do things our own way. We are defying the odds. All the tribal lines, they've been dividing us.
We're rewriting. You say in that article where you say you're claiming Anifa, you say, she reminded us that we don't need to be politicians to do politics. We need only be fed up enough to stop waiting for change and start being it. Anifa stands on stage not just as a character but as a prophecy. She doesn't ask to be heard and she demands it. She doesn't follow the rules, so she rewrites them. And that's precisely what happened when Gen Z took to the baton, not out of rebellion for its own sake, but out of necessity, out of the understanding that the house is already on fire and we are the ones with the water.
That is
very well
I think
said and
that
very well put.
Describes what happened last year.
Yeah. And when we saw this, I just sort of piggybacking on a question that Mariam had asked you earlier, we saw the power of people coming together, people mobilizing, people getting out. We saw people, the LSK saying we're young, youthful lawyers, we shall come out to be stand out to be counted. We saw young medics also coming out to say, yeah, we are going here, we are medics for Kenya. We saw people saying, contributing. How much did you raise in total?
Over 31 million.
Over 31 million shillings in how long?
Yeah. That was in 2 days, but in 4 hours it was 14 million.
Imagine, 14 million shillings raised in just just like that, right? And in 2 days you go to over 30 million shillings.
Yes.
It's the power of mobilizing, the power of coming together, the power of crowdfunding and crowdsourcing and crowd everything. How can that power be harnessed going forward? Like, how else can it be used? Just for creating awareness, crowding and even supporting the movements.
I think how it can be used was already described and lived last year with everything, like you're saying, medical aid, legal aid, us coming together to fundraise. I was actually shocked. When I put out the link first, the target was 10 million. So I looked at it 4 hours later, it was 14 million. I was terrified. I will not lie. Having so much money, the next day it hit 30 million. I was terrified because how am I going to handle this money? That's why we worked with Mchanga and I didn't handle any cash. So I think we've done this crowdsourcing thing a lot last year, and it is one of our biggest strength. And we keep proving it every single day. When one of us is attacked, when one of us is in hospital. Like recently we discovered that we have Brian at KNH. He was paralyzed, still has a bullet inside. So I had to come on social media again and fundraise for him through his number, of course. And we bought him wheelchairs. His people from his hometown came to see him and gave him wheelchair. We got him the Ripple mattress and everything he needed. So it's still there. The spirit is still there. It's not broken. It's not done. It's not off. Just a bit slow and infighting, but it is there. So how can we utilize this going forward? I think these things write themselves for us. No one comes and say we need this momentum to be high at this time. So the momentum rises up and falls in its own capacity. No one can come. I think that is one of the limits of being leaderless. We don't have a collective voice. We don't have the structure. We don't organize. Okay, it works really well, but the limit is that. And also, I'm
just
trying to go
that.
back to the question again. You're asking how we can...
how do you cultivate
harness
that? Harness it, yeah.
How do we harness that?
This crowdsourcing of resources. What else can we use that
I
for?
got my point. I was saying that proved that we can do this at grassroots levels. You see, crowdsourcing will focus a lot on donor fundings, this and that. But what if communities, community leaders, community mobilizers, and everyone crowdsource from their own community? I think that would be really, it will really enhance the community love and care for each and every one of us. We didn't have, can you imagine if we didn't raise 31 million shillings? People would be stuck in hospitals and everywhere. So I would like to encourage community leaders, community mobilizers from everywhere to try and tap into community mobilization of funds and resources. I learned recently in Ghana, someone said a really nice point. The most resourceful thing an activist or a human rights defender is themselves. And resource goes beyond money. Resource, like the Gen Z protest, everyone gave in what they could. My ChatGPT, my tech expertise, my legal aid, my medical aid. So we can really tap into that community mobilization. I insist on that.
Okay. I know we're about out of time, Mariam. You want to come in, but Sophie Mogure on YouTube says, now that protests are likely to be inevitable with the Finance Bill 2025 looming, how are we going to ensure or execute our constitutional rights while protecting the lives of citizens? I know it's a big question, but this 2025 Finance Bill is coming. I think it's one of those things that people are saying, it's like you don't know how to interact with that, the bigness of that, given what happened last year.
I think it's a little bit of a try me, you know, try me. We've been here, try me again. I don't know. How do we protect?
I think one of the things we lost to the state since last year was the luxury to surprise them. We took them with surprise. Someone told us in a meeting that day, I was like, oh yes. Because you cannot hold even, let's say, a 10 people assembly anywhere. You cannot.
They can sense it.
Yeah.
They can sniff it.
We are so well guarded with it. We feel secure. You see, we feel secure. So we've lost that ability to surprise them. They really, really go heavy on us anytime something happens. Even an assembly, leave alone a protest. We can't even hold a vigil. We cannot hold anything. You see, the churches are scared. Every social hall you try to book, they're saying no because they're scared. You know what they're scared of when people come together and then there are many. They're scared of a national anthem, you know it. And that is the ability we lost, unfortunately. But like I say, these things, no one can come out and say how it's going to be.
No one can write
it works out on its own. I cannot say, you know, finance, and everything is discussed publicly. Like I say, another limit of this uprising. The police is always going to know our moves, but organically, anything happens and it's organic, no one can stop it, not the states, not the bullets or the tear gas. So when it comes to protests, any other protest that is going to happen from now on, it will happen organically. No one thought about, no one anticipated what happened last year. Absolutely no one. So as far as protests going forward is concerned, I think it will happen till the momentum picks itself up. The organic, when you're angry enough, you see, nothing will stop you. So that is what I would say about any incoming protest we would have. And we've lost that ability to surprise them. They are very ready always. Last year, you were kids eating KFC and coming with iPhone and living with Ubers. But nowadays, we're criminals, criminals.
Oh, yes. Wow. But thank you very much, Hanifa, for joining us today. Hanifa Adan is a justice defender, a columnist with the Daily Nation. When is your next article?
Saturday.
It's ready already. Now you're working on it, you're putting it together.
I've already written 2 this week, so it's the next week.
You have a structure.
Yeah.
structure of the next one in place.
Yeah.
We'll be looking forward to reading that. Keep it here for more conversations. In the next hour, we give the mic to constitutional lawyer Willis Otieno, who is coming here to tell us the elections should be held in 2026. Okay. He'll be here at Ashika Mic. Keep it here. It's 8 a.m.